Hello and greeting, the Baha'i greeting of Allah Pa to all the Baha'is of the world, especially the North American and Canadians, that I am one of them. My name is Abbas Tamori. These are the series of speeches and talks that reintroduce the Baha'i faith to the North Americans as a part of my mission from Baha'u'llah, sort of reconstruction of the Baha'i faith, to open the door for others to be able to see things and maybe they develop their own views. But before everything else, I have to say that this has been done, this series, or been decided essentially by the International Institution of Guardianship that was incorporated at 2002, May 2002. And I am the president and in charge of the affairs. This program, this particular speech, which is kind of an introduction, a foreword you may call it, it's about to tell you what is the legitimacy of such organization and who we are and what's going on as far as the Baha'i faith concerns regarding this matter. We'll try to bring you some of the holy text regarding this issue. To define the covenant of the Baha'i faith, you all know, and the non-Baha'is as well should know, that there are four infallible individuals in the Baha'i faith, beginning in 1844 with the appearance of the Bab, who was the forerunner of Baha'u'llah and one of his elders, that essentially developed the situation for coming of the Baha'u'llah. And Baha'u'llah, glory of God, manifestations of God that has been promised in all the religions of the past, and the founder of the Baha'i faith. And after him, of course, is Abdul-Baha, the greatest branch, the master we call him, who is the infallible interpreter of the writing of Baha'u'llah. And immediately after him, the grandson of Abdul-Baha, Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the cause of God, the infallible guardian of the cause of God. Be very careful when we're talking about Shoghi Effendi, because he is the one that Abdul-Baha in the Will and Testament calls him infallible, the holy branch of both the House of the Bab and Baha'u'llah. He is one of the greatest characters in the religions of all the religions, since he was not imprisoned and he had a bit of free time. He has manifested that divine power. So, besides these four infallible individuals, there are also two institutions. You know the Universal Laws of Justice that was erected in 1963 by the hands of the cause of God in Israel. And there is another institution that the Baha'is, they don't accept it right now. Many of them haven't heard about it. It's called the Universal House of Guardianship, which is being taken care of at 2002 by the Elders of God, a forum of three of them. And they have created this International Institution of Guardianship as the first phase, and ultimately will end up by the elections of 5 women from among the Baha'is of the world, who would be called the International Institution of Guardianship. So, but how these things are working and where are we coming with these ideas, I have to bring you back the fact that in 1957, when Shoghi Effendi died, passed away, ascended to the Abha kingdom, he had 27 hands of the cause or personal assistant to take the affair of the Baha'is. And they looked and searched everywhere, and they said he has no successor. So, but this was a very painful situation for them when the Baha'is, they found that there is no successor, is because of the writing of Abdul Baha in the Will and Testament, which I'm going to read it for you. In the page 8 of the Will and Testament of Abdul Baha, this is what Abdul Baha says. Quote, "It is incumbent upon the guardian of the cause of God to appoint in his own lifetime him that shall become his successor, which differences may not arise after his passing." This is in the Baha'i Administration, page 8. This is the writing of Shoghi Effendi, translation of Shoghi Effendi of the word of Abdul Baha. So based on this, Shoghi Effendi, which is the guardian of the cause of God, has to appoint somebody after him to succeed him, but there was nobody. And Abdul Baha says if this is not happening, then differences will arise among the Baha'is. Baha'is will be divided over this issue. And this was a painful matter for the hands of the cause because they didn't know what to say about it. But they were very smart. They said there's nothing in the writing to say that we, as a hand of the cause, are infallible. Therefore, we can't do it. And we can answer it. What we will do, though, we will ask all the Baha'is, following the 10 years plan of Shoghi Effendi, at the end of the 10 years plan, to create, by the vote, as it was written in all the books of Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha and Shoghi Effendi, all the Baha'is in the world, elect 9 people at the World Center in Haifa, Holy Land, and that is the universal laws of justice, which according to the writing, it is infallible. So universal laws of justice is infallible. Elected 9 people with all the Baha'is of the world democratically. So hand of the cause, they said, since we're not infallible and the universal laws of justice is infallible, why don't we elect the universal laws of justice and let them to answer these questions rather than us? Well, universal laws of justice was formed in 1963, and this is what they said about the issue. Quote, "After prayerful and careful study of the holy text bearing upon the questions of the appointment of the successor to Shoghi Effendi as the guardian of the cause of God, and after prolonged consultation, which included considerations of the views of the hands of the cause of God residing in Holy Land, the Universal House of Justice finds that there is no way to appoint or to legislate to make it possible to appoint a second guardian to succeed Shoghi Effendi." This is in the book called Covenant, the booklet, page 19. So Universal Laws of Justice says that we can't do it. Essentially in the Baha'i writing, it's very clearly, so I'm going to bring the quotation to you, there are 2 pillars that constitute the world order of Baha'u'llah. One is the Universal House of Guardianship, and the other one is Universal House of Justice. Universal House of Justice legislate the new laws, whatever Baha'u'llah did not enact purposely. They can bring new laws. But, this is very essential, they are forbidden. It is forbidden for Universal Laws of Justice to interpret the writing. It's very amazing. But they cannot do that. This is one of the restrictions upon them. There are actually 3 restrictions. The second one is they cannot interfere and infringe upon the institutions of the Universal House of Guardianship. Under no circumstances they cannot interfere it. They run parallel to each other. And the third one, is that they cannot cancel or provoke or revoke, actually, the laws of Baha'u'llah. They cannot do that. They cannot go outside of the faith, their writings. But the main thing is that they cannot interpret and they cannot infringe upon the institution of the guardianship. Therefore, they said, we can't do it. All right. So, first of all, Shoghi Effendi didn't have a successor. Secondly, the Universal House of Justice said they cannot do it either. So, some of the Baha'is, they tried to find an answer for this. One of them was Mason Rimi. Mason Rimi, by the way, was one of the hands of the cause, one of those 27 personal assistants to Shoghi Effendi. Ironically, he was one of the 9 people elected by the hands of the cause. Out of 27, they elected 9 people among themselves. He was one of them. To go find out if there is any writing pertaining to the guardianship successor to Shoghi Effendi, and he, as one of them, they said that there's nothing to indicate that. But this fellow, hands of the cause, he decided to say that he is the guardian of the cause of God, or at least that's what's been told everywhere in their website and other places, in order to save the situation, probably, he thought. But his claim was absolutely wrong, and it was rejected. Why is that? Because we're not using your logic, we're just going directly with the text. He was called hands of the cause of God. Therefore, he cannot self-promote himself to something else. You see? This is what happened to Azal too, who came after the Bab. And then he objected that Baha'u'llah, you should not be there because Bab was just a prophet, came, and you can't be just coming so fast. His is also not accepted because Bab called him, you're the chief of the Babi. That means you can't be more than what I told you you are. And Mason Rimi did the same mistake. He did not understood. When Shoghi Effendi called him hands of the cause, he's restricted to be the hands of the cause, and he cannot promote himself to any degree higher, to call himself the guardian of the cause. Because if you're the guardian, then you are chief of all the hands of the cause. They all have to obey you. And how could you self-promote yourself? Number one. Number two, in the Will and Testament of Abdul Baha, clearly he says, the hands of the cause of God, they have the power to deal with any situation that is going to be injurious to the cause of God, even if such claim comes from one of themselves. That is, if a hand of causes says something, other hands of the causes, if they don't accept it, he has to put his claim aside. And hands of the cause of God, they told him that we cannot accept your claim, because you are not of the lineage of Shoghi Effendi, because you're hands of the cause, you can't promote yourself to anything else. We understand you're trying to solve the problem, but you're going wrong way about it. Okay? He didn't accept. Of course, he was, excommunicated, rightfully so. I don't know what was his intention, only Baha'u'llah knows. But his solution was not according to the writing of the Book of God. He had to be going. I remember when I was myself in Iran, when Muslims, they were asking me, how come there's no second guardian after Shoghi Effendi, and the guardianship is done, and what are you saying, to this and that? And I used to always tell them that there are 2 pillars, universal laws of justice and guardianship. Universal laws of justice existing in 1963, elected. Your question is about the guardianship. The guardianship is remaining to be the writing of the Shoghi Effendi and Abdul Baha. What's a guardian doing? Interpretations. Okay, those